Hello, this is Steve Sassman from VROwnersGuide.com, and today I have an interview with Rex Brown from HolidayRentalMastery.com down in Australia. So pretty excited to get to meet Rex and hear what he has to say. Some of the things that we're going to cover before I actually introduce him are he has a nice case study where he showed where he was able to get 80% occupancy within 3 months for a brand new rental. That's very, very impressive. He's also got some psychological linkages to for the guest and your vacation rental while they're staying at your place. So we're going to dive into that. And then thirdly, we want to talk about using SMS messages as well as the phone itself to go ahead and increase conversion rates for vacation rentals. So without further ado, hello Rex, how you doing?
Hi Steve, thanks for having me on your show. I've looked at some of your other sessions. It's really great what you're doing for the industry. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks so much. So first of all, let's start off by just kind of diving in a little bit to your background so people know a little bit more about you and how you got started and all that good stuff.
Okay, I had a little bit of a story about how I started all of this. My partner and I have a holiday house down on the Great Ocean Road, which is about 3 hours southwest of Melbourne, Australia, down near the bottom. And it was managed by a rental management agency with pretty ordinary results. And we took a trip at one stage, and I'd been working corporate. I was able to dial in online, and we looked for a holiday rental in South Australia. And a few seconds after I made the email inquiry, I got a phone call saying, "Can I help you?" And there was a charming young woman who managed the rental and said, "Would you like to book?" And for me, I booked, but for me that was a game changer because it meant that you could interact with an owner directly, and you could do it very quickly, and you could do it without a middleman. So that really became like a magic moment for me.
Wow, yeah. So was that almost like being able to do it as easily as a hotel, yet with the uniqueness of the vacation rental? Was that kind of the charm of it?
Yeah, and I'd been working in corporate doing a internal web-based application for the company, and I realized that you also have control to what you show other people, which is fantastic too. So over the years, although we still allowed the manager to run the rental, we added another layer that we could control on the web, and it meant that we went from like 30% occupancy to 80 and 90% occupancy over the years. Then when we moved in Melbourne, we kept a house, and that's still a holiday rental. And in recent years, we decided to come and live down on the coast where the first one was, and we built one from scratch, and that's the one I'll talk about today, where we set it up to be everything that we thought people might want, and we were pretty amazed at how fast we were able to rent it. So that is a bit of an overview of how I came to be in the industry and how we had to had like a sand pit, I suppose, to play in with a brand new rental.
Great. Yeah, that's exciting. So do you think I mean, obviously your previous experience, though, definitely helped you to get that success right away because you already kind of knew what you had to do, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Steve. Over the years, I'd used Google AdWords to run all sorts of ads on all sorts of keywords with all sorts of emotional appeals to people to come and stay at the place down on the Great Ocean Road. And I knew what the keywords were that were working. And by talking with our guests over the years, we realised what they were looking for and also what the holes were in the market. so that we thought, all right, in our particular market, there is a hole for a relatively compact luxury studio that is very different, has things that other places don't have, that'll really get people's attention and wow them. And from the bottom up, we designed that around our perfect guest.
What what were some of those things that made it different?
So in our particular case, we thought a theme was really important. Excuse me. Um, and in our other place, we had a theme of nature and Aboriginal art, and that resonated okay. But what we wanted to do was to think of something where people could really switch off from a busy work time, come somewhere to relax, and really bond with nature. And my partner came up with the idea of Japanese type theme and a Zen theme, where you really switch off and tune in with nature, and that became the theme that drove the atmosphere, the design features, and also the things at which we added. So we have a really great little day bed that looks outside, so someone can just sit there, listen to the sound of the waves, chill out. There's also a spa that is no big deal in most places, but down where we are, we're a remote little village, and we have our own town. We don't have town water, we have our own tank water. So water's at a premium, and a spa was something most people don't do. We also installed a steam shower, which is like a mini low temperature sauna, and people can go from the steam shower to the spa, and someone jump in the water down on the beach. So the whole thing is a quite a different sensual experience that nobody else had. Does that make sense?
Great. Yeah, that sounds, and it's neat because then you know how to target and who to target when you do something like that, right? Correct?
Yeah, and we have during the time that we started up, we ran ads on AdWords, things like luxury escape, pamper yourself, you're worth it, and luxury romantic time together, look after yourself. So it was those kind of things, and we ran all sorts of ads like that until we found ones that worked quite well. So people tell us often that they come exhausted. They've worked like 7 days straight, like 20 hours a day, and they're just exhausted. And I say to them, well, when you come down here, we can go and do this, you can go and do that. And they said, listen, we're just going to just lie down and tune out, listen to the sea, and just chill out. And when they leave 2 or 3 days later, they're kind of floating on air. I said, how did you go? And they say, oh, it's so wonderful. Ah. So they really do switch over and let nature take over. So that's the kind of experience we designed, and it does seem to work pretty well. It also gives us a chance to do some interesting Japanese theme things, like Japanese fabrics. We've got some shoji screens which can slide around. There's some original Japanese paintings. We don't go for the genuine Japanese experience, which is sleep on the floor on a hard mat, because we don't think that quite works with the stressed person who wants to just chill out. They need a comfortable bed, and they can have a Japanese theme in the background, but they can have their comforts too. So
Oh, absolutely. Hey, if they want to lay on the floor, more power to them, but you want to give them the option of sleeping on a great bed.
Exactly. In fact, a couple of people have said to us, "Where did you get the bed? We really like the bed." And so you show them what the bed is, and then we really like the lounge. We like how you can lay right back and put your feet on that ottoman stool. Oh, gee, that's so comfortable. And we invested a fair bit in nice furniture, and it really pays off. We could have spent a couple of $100 on the couch and a couple of $100 on other things, but we decided no, let's do it well, and it really does pay off when people can really relax and enjoy themselves. And there's a number of people who've just come here and said, look, I have to come and stay because my friend stayed here last week, and they've been raving about the place. So, wow, can we come? Can we book? Which is the kind of experience that we want, which is great. So,
Definitely. Well, that's great. So it sounds like you did a really good job of setting the stage and presenting a really nice place where people are going to have a really good experience. What are some of the tactical things that you did to be able to get to 80% occupancy in that new place?
Yeah, okay. So as you were saying before, we have had experience over the years, and I tend to think of things tactically as a hygiene factors that you need to get right. So some people don't even get this right, but over and over, if you listen to other people who are doing it well, there's a whole series of things that you must get right. So must have great photographs. If you're listing on a site that has a pricing algorithm, then make sure it's loaded up and accurate at all times. If there's a calendar, make sure the calendar is completely up to date at all times. So when someone arrives on your website or the listing site, they know exactly what it is that they're going to get, and there's no questions. The words are evocative. We talk about experience the art of living on the Great Ocean Road, connect with nature. All those evocative words. I still call all of those things tactical or hygiene because you've got to get them right. Also, it's important to list on the right sites. And for us, we'd known what the sites were. In our area, there's a listing site called Stays, which has been owned by a major newspaper and publishing online company, and they have a lot of link juice to that site, so it dominates a lot of the Australian rural markets. So we figured out we're better off to list on a couple that really dominate than to list on about 20 sites. And one of the other things in terms of tactics is having a good 2 or 3 reviews up really early, so that it's quite clear to people that people who've stayed enjoy it. So that's pretty much the list of tactical things to get the basics right, and over the top of that, I've then overlaid some extra things, which really drive the market better than just the few basic things.
Yeah, definitely.
So shall I go on to those?
Yeah, sure.
So one of the things that I've discovered some time ago that is not all that rocket science is the higher you list, the more bookings you get. And on a listing site, often you can have an option whereby you can pay a bit extra to list high. And in our case, it wasn't a great deal. For a small monthly fee of $100, we could list on the top 5 properties. And we know that other properties are listed on the same website, but they're down the bottom, and they're down at 100. So I figured out if I've got a brand new property, I'm going to be down at number 100. But if I pay another $100 a month, then I can be right at the top, which is a free ride, and that made a huge difference. In some cases, if you're doing it long term, that doesn't make sense because it can be very expensive. But in the early stages, for us, that was really a great way of getting extra responses.
Yeah.
And also, one of the other things that I did was AdWords. So we have a pretty basic website at that stage, and we drove Google Ads to the website. We're lucky to be in a small village where there's only another, say, 100 other properties that are competitors, and they don't use AdWords. If I were to go to a capital city where I'm competing against hotels, then I might be just crowded out of the market. And we have a regional town nearby called Lawn, and in summertime they are paying $10 or $15 per click just to advertise on Google AdWords, and that is like crazy money.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Uh,
I think I'm
and
paying about $10 or $15 a month for mine, which,
Whoa,
is nothing.
that is nothing at all. And if you can be in a location where you can find some nice keywords, in my case, I found there were some pet-friendly or dog-friendly keywords that I could use. In the early stages, I was paying 50 cents a click, and it really allowed me to jump ahead of the market. The market's got a bit smarter these days, and it's a couple of dollars, but even that's a good investment early days. So, so they were some of the things that I did, and I also aggressively drove reviews. When I say aggressively, aggressive is probably not such a good word when you're being friendly with your guests who you love, but it's a case of being persistent and saying, look, we're a small business. It would really be helpful for you if we could get some reviews, and people responded to that pretty well. So
Now, do you use an actual guest book at the vacation rental as well, or are you strictly trying to do them online?
No, we have online with the listing site. We have online on our own site reviews. We have a guest book, which is part of that behavioural linkage. I'll talk a bit about that later. And we also have a questionnaire which allows people to pour their hearts out if they have something to say. And it's amazing what people will say on those reviews. It's almost like they've had a conversion experience from being a stressed out office worker to being a rediscovered whole person with a wonderful experience. So so all of those things we use, and one of the things, of course, that smart operators know is that if you've got people who are a bit edgy when they leave, not that I think we've had one person who was edgy because they were ill, they're less likely to be glowing in their reviews, but the people who have glowing writing in the guest book and glowing writing on the questionnaire, they're the ones who just love you so much they'll gush for paragraph after paragraph. So catching those people and helping them share with other people is important. So that whole review thing is really important. And often people will say, look, I don't know about your words, and I don't know about your pictures. They look pretty good, but I really like what those reviews say. I'm going to book. What do I do?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
It's that social proof, I mean,
yeah,
if other people, because of course we're going to say that our place is great, which it is, but if you have another person, confirming that, that's just a lot more powerful.
absolutely. And I find that the more you talk with people, the more you learn as well. So it, I tend to drive my partner crazy because as soon as somebody arrives here, I'll bounce down and say, welcome, hi, how are you going? Here's some of the new things that are happening in town. And would you mind just telling us what you think about the new pantry we've installed or whatever? And when they leave, was the same kind of thing, bounce down and say, well, what did you think about the place? And how could we improve? And it's amazing what people will share with you, and they'll say things like, "Oh, amazing attention to detail, but would it be possible to have a spare towel?" Okay, of course, and you can modify very quickly. And in the early stages, in the early few months, I reckon I would have run probably a dozen different experiments, and in a very friendly and relaxed way, I very quickly got feedback from the guest as to whether they were working or not. And in many ways, I follow the principles of the lean startup. Are you familiar with that, Steve?
What was that again? Oh, the lean startup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just do the minimum that you can to test a concept, and then see the reaction you get from the customer. And if it works, fine. But if it's not resonating, then don't invest all the money that you need to on something which is not clearly not too important.
Exactly.
So that customer obsession goes beyond just when they're on site. It also is when they inquire. It's important to ask them how they found you, what they were looking for, what what they were searching for, and if there's anything that they wanted to know at that stage. It's amazing what you can learn. And in the early stages, I was a little bit shy and didn't want to ask guests questions. I thought, they might not like me asking questions. And I've learned over the couple of years that I'm dealing with them intensively that they are very, very happy to share their experience, and you can learn so much and fine-tune that experience. Yeah. So that I reckon we've probably increased the satisfaction of our guests by 30% just by doing a dozen little changes that they've told us about or checked us about. As an example of one, I said to someone, what did you think of the spa? And they said, oh, we enjoyed the hot tub. And I said, but we've got a spa. It's an inside spa. And they went, well, what you can do is you can open all the windows to the outside around the spa and slide the sliding door that's adjacent to the spa shut. And then you're in a hot tub, you're outside, you've got the sound of the sea, you've got the fresh air, I can see the birds, I'm outside. Oh, okay. So it's that kind of experience. You learn those kind of things that you wouldn't otherwise get. And the last thing that it's probably useful to talk about is the high conversion from inquiries to bookings, which is one of the things that you mentioned in the introduction, Steve. Perhaps we could talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think a lot of people will benefit from that, because I think a lot of people seem to think that calling people is just not effective, or it's bothering people, when I've had similar results to you. But go ahead and tell us yours specifically.
Yeah, well, I guess it stems back in my experience from that very first time when I had the phone call from the lady in South Australia, and it occurred to me the power of an immediate response. And the other thing that occurred to me was when I talk to people and say, oh, how did you find me? I found a pattern which was a bit unusual. People said, well, I started 2 hours ago. I went on to Google. I have no idea what I've done or how I've found you. I'm exhausted. Can can I just can I book now? And now there are some people who are far more smart than that, and they'll say, "Yes, I did a long tail search. I used these 5 keywords. I had this experience, that experience. I compared this with that, and now, having looked through your site and your reviews, I'd like you to give me a quote." And they're like, "Whoa!" Those kind of people are quite unusual, but a lot of people are just exhausted, and they're so confused. So then, if I can capture them in that state where they're psychologically confused and exhausted, but wanting to get to closure, then often they're just so relieved.
Yeah.
And so many people, when I call them, they say, "Look, thank you so much for calling. That is just so wonderful." Of course, in the early stages, I was terrified that people were going to say, "Who are you? How dare you call me? I'll talk to you when I'm ready," all this kind of stuff. And it's never happened. Um, Occasionally people will say, "Well, I've made a couple of inquiries, I'll let you know, but thanks for calling." Um, and overwhelmingly, people are grateful for the conversation, which is terrific. And I then thought, okay, well, given that people do like to be called back quickly, and given that I'm not going to be at my PC all day, how can I respond quickly and go about all the things I've got to go about? And what I figured out was, let's make sure that I had an SMS, and I then figured out that some listing sites have an automatic SMS option. You can tick that. In some cases, they queue that up for 3 or 4 hours. Some cases, it's
Rex,
immediate. Yes?
I'm sorry, before you go on, I just want to explain, some people in the United States refer to it as text messaging and not SMS. So
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that everyone knows what we're talking about.
Thank you, Steve. And can you please, if I use weird Australian jargon on anything else, can you please let me know as well? We we do have cultural differences, and thanks for that. So
Yeah, no, in fact, well, I come from a cellular background, so I know it, but then I realized, wait a second, probably the average, American doesn't know what SMS means. So,
right. Okay. Well, I'm trying pretty hard because we don't use vacation rentals over here. We use holiday rentals, and we don't use cell phones. We use mobile phones.
right.
But these things are becoming a bit more, yeah, more well known, and yeah, we tend to speak a bit more of the language. Anyway, I'm getting
Yeah.
myself distracted. So, in terms of the text messages speed, it turns out that there are ways that you can customize text messages, and one of the things that I figured out was that Gmail is what I use for my for my email. There's a thing called a filter that you can set up, and so that if a certain condition arises with certain keywords in a subject or on the body of a text or from a certain person or from a certain source, then you can forward it to another address. In this case, I found an SMS, so a text message provider, whereby if I send them an email, it will respond on my telephone as an SMS. And I've got 4 or 5 special conditions set up on my Gmail. If I get one of those conditions, which is like one of the keywords from my holiday rentals, I will get an SMS. And it's got to the stage where I've got my mobile phone going off with all sorts of beeps and whirs and ding-a-lings, and people, so what's going on here? But it's important because When I'm out and about, and I do need to move from our little village to other places quite a lot. I can hear it if I'm on the go, and I can respond quickly. And uh, if I'm at my desk, I have some templates, and I can get back to people with a reply within a minute, and I can call them within 2 minutes. But if I'm driving, then it becomes harder. And I've found that I just ring people and say, I'm sorry, I can't send you a reply by email at the moment. I'm about to be driving. Can I answer your question? And probably about half or a third of those I'll convert just by the immediacy, even without the email. So that to me was a big discovery. I'm hoping that a lot of the experts in our industry will be doing that anyway. And I had an experience a month ago where I inquired, where I responded. I think I was about 10 minutes after I got the initial SMS, and the person said, "Oh, look, I'm sorry, someone else has responded. I've already booked." And that to me was confirmation that it's minutes that we're talking about for some clients that makes a big difference. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much the rundown of the kind of things that we did in that first 3 months, and I was pretty surprised when I realised that we were running at 80% occupancy, and a couple of months later we ran at 90% occupancy. So it took me, I think, 5 years to get to that stage with the very first rental. But I guess I was using a lot of things that I'd learned along the way. So that's the story.
No, that's great, and I think that's kind of, I don't know about you, but that's kind of how I started. With the Vacation Rental Owner's Guide was, it took me a long time to get to that point, and it sounds like the same with you. And yet, once you have that knowledge, if you can share that, we can help people so that they don't have to figure it out on their own for 4 years. If they follow some good advice from people that have done it before, they can just shorten that learning curve tremendously.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and I think that we're in a very exciting time in the vacation rental industry, where with the emergence of the World Summit, there's going to be 10 or a dozen people who from all around the world who are going to be sharing this information with people from all over the world, in all sorts of cultural settings, from Weird Australia to well-known America to interesting Europe. And people will, if they're smart, they will short-circuit that learning. And if it's, for some people it's 4 years. For some people, it's infinity. Some people, they just never ever have the opportunity to hear good information and act on it. I was talking with someone who I met after I spoke at the Stays conference last year, and she is a very smart young lady running several holiday rentals, and she said that she would have been prepared to pay $3,000 to somebody who would give her good material and provide good coaching, and push her along once a week on an accelerated path to learning, because she was managing 3 holiday rentals, and she understood the difference between low occupancy and high occupancy isn't $1,000 or $2,000. You're talking about $10, $20, $30, $40,000 in terms of gross.
Right, and that's just per unit,
Yeah, and if she's got 3, so I think we're on the brink for our industry of producing an upwelling of great information from people like yourself, Steve, who've got some great information on your website. I'm starting in my way from my Holiday Rental Mastery website, and I know that there are others, Heather Bayer, Matt from Panama, and others who are just exploding on the industry, and there'll probably be no well, after the World Summary, after the World Summit, there will be no excuse for people anywhere in the world not to have the best knowledge. It's going to be out there, and it's really an exciting time and a time of great opportunities. So I'm really excited to be part of it, and
Yeah, I am too. I think it's going to be great. It's really neat to be able to meet, these experts from all over the world, like you said. So, and yeah, you're right. The fact is, for anyone that joins it, I mean, it's completely free to take part in it. So, yeah, if you miss out on it, yeah, there's no one to blame except yourself, I guess.
yeah. Now, Steve, I don't know how we're going for time. I did say that I would talk a little bit about some of those psychological linkages that are a little bit subtle. How are we going for time?
We're fine as long as you have time.
Yeah, that's good. So I thought, what, as just going back to this 3-month exercise, I thought, what is going on in people's heads when they come in really stressed and then they walk out really floating on air? And I asked them that, and they said, oh, there are things about your place that just are really good. And we started thinking about things differently and so on. And for CZen, we made a point of connecting with nature, so that we've got about 8 different species of birds that come and visit our place. And one of the things that we do is tell people about that and put in some bird seed so they can feed the birds. In some cases, we have a thing called a kookaburra, the one that has that laughing sound that you hear sometimes. I won't try and imitate it. It would be a bit embarrassing.
Come on, that's what everyone wants, Rex. They want to hear you do it.
Well, sorry. Anyway, it's a cackle. Anyway, so they will take meat from people's fingers, and some people just have that very emotional experience when they get together with nature. For others, it's wearing the Japanese robes we give people. For others, we put out some origami on the pillows when they arrive, little folded pieces of paper, little paper cranes.
Mm-hmm.
There's an origami book that talks about origami. There's books on meditation. And so that we invite people to experiment a bit with things that they wouldn't otherwise experiment with. And the whole tactile experience is one that's a bit different. So that's the CZen one. Our other property, which is has a similar kind of opportunity, is Treetops, which is a 3-story house in the trees, way up in the rainforest. You look down to the sea, wake up in the morning with the sound of the sea and the view of the sea. So in the house, we have pictures of the birds that they're likely to see in that rainforest experience. Again, seed to feed the birds. And we also have a set of Aboriginal paintings which are originals. So we have information about the painters. And we have 2 other things which are a bit unusual. We have a thing called a Beachcomber's treasure box. And the Beachcomber's treasure box is a wall box with a whole lot of little niches in it, and inside there are various things that we've put. And there's a sign saying, if you found something interesting on the beach, please add it. If you find something interesting to take away, then the implication is they can sort of take something away. And so the whole thing is evolving. Each time they come down, there'll be different things there. For some people, they became captivated by the number of corks, and I think that might be people like to have a nice bottle of champagne when they're there. So the number of champagne corks grew over time, those kind of things. And I notice on your website you've had some interesting conversations with people about dogs. We are very supportive of people bringing their dogs, and people love bringing their dogs. So we do a few things with dogs to make the experience a good experience.
Like
and
what
one is,
specifically?
we figured out that if we had a Polaroid camera, we could put the camera in the house and say to people, here is a notice board. Please take a photograph of your dog and put the photograph up there and tell us in a little caption about your experience. And so we've now got 300 photographs from 300 families who've stayed with different dogs.
Wow,
And
that's very cool. Now, what do you do? Are those displayed somewhere for other guests to see, or how's that work?
yeah, so we started off by putting a notice board adjacent to the kitchen sink. So it's a discovery. So people walk into the house, they have a look around, they figure out where they're going to sleep, and then after a while they come to the kitchen sink to look at the dishes, and as they do that, they turn, and there, whoa, there's a bit of a surprise. There's a notice board with probably 40 or 50 photographs. I always leave a little bit of space for some new ones, and then they discover that, and they start looking at the captions, and then in an idle moment they think, okay, that was a pretty smart caption. And there's like one that I really like is of a couple of dogs looking very pleased with themselves, one lying on the floor, one lying on the couch, and the caption is, "We're here, cats in the cattery, loser." So they're saying that the dogs have had a great experience, but the cats missed out, and they're the
I
winners
see.
and the cats are the loser. And there's lots of ones where the dogs are inside looking outside to the birds, and one says something like, so many birds, so little time. Another one says, here's breakfast, as if the dog's about to go out and eat the birds. All sorts of things. One was a pair of hands. People just said, look, we got engaged, with lots of smiley faces. So there's a lot of emotion that comes out in those photographs. And we found that after a while the notice board got full, so we had to put it into an album, and then that album got full, so we had to throw it away and get a bigger album that had more room. So it's been a big hit. The other day I was there and I said, "How's things going?" And they said, "Oh, great! We've already got a photograph up on the notice board." So that was a big deal.
Yeah, I love that idea. Do you think
Yep.
that would work with people taking their own photos of like their group, or is that too personal to have, or you know what I mean? Is it better to
Well,
be more anonymous with the dog?
yeah, I think it's more anonymous for the dog. We thought about that, and some people do actually put photographs of themselves. There was a business group, a small team that came together for a bonding weekend, and they said, we're the team from blah blah, and we had a great time. And there was some where there was a young girl with feeding some birds, and particularly with children, I'm quite nervous about people taking identities and so on. We did put some photographs on the website. I made sure there were none of any people. And I think people are much happier to share when it's anonymous. I remember
Right.
there was a discussion. I think it was in California somewhere where there was a party and people pounced on somebody and said, "You're the person that took a photograph of me and put it on your website, on your Facebook site without my permission. How dare you?" Um, and I think most people aren't quite that precious, but there are these days you do have to be very careful, and the dogs is a nice, safe way of doing it, and it's fun, so people connect with that.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. If they have a dog, they love their dog and they want to show it off. So it's a great thing all around for sure.
yeah, and it was a Polaroid camera, a new version of Polaroid camera that we got. Um, I I can't think of the model. I'll dig it out and I'll send the details if you want to put it on the show notes, Steve.
Yeah, sure.
Um, um, there are actually quite a number on the market. This was a small one, which is quite nice. The other thing that we do for dogs is that we have dog sheets, which is basically a cheap sheet, and we say to people, you can put the dog on the furniture, but please use the sheets first. So that for some people, taking the dog is a part of the family member, and they like to have a small dog up with them on the furniture. We're quite happy provided they put the sheets there and there's no dog hair on the furniture, which drives the cleaners crazy.
Right. Oh, that's a smart way of doing that. I've never even heard of anyone doing that. That's really smart.
Yeah, so that's straightforward. The other thing we do is when someone books, we say, here's our welcome pack. It's got a map and how to find us. And if we know they've got a dog, we say, here's the dog welcome pack. And this shows you the great beaches where you can take your dog and run without any limitations. Here's where some of the walks you can take your dog. Here's the numbers of the local vets when they're away, all that kind of thing. So that we know a lot of people have think very deeply about their pets, and
Hmm.
I think we're probably about 2/3 of our guests in treetops are guests with pets. They are a very important segment of our market, and we've never had well, no, we've had some minor damage, but nothing that I can't fix for like $20. Very, very small stuff. So it's been a very good experience for us, and uh, I also had an interesting marketing experience where in summertime our rates go up by quite a lot, almost double. And I said to someone, well, it's going to be $3,000 for the week. And she said, oh, that's fine. And I said, well, you seem to be quite undeterred by the price. She said, well, what you've got to realise is that I've got two dogs and I would have had to put them in kennels, and in summertime the kennel rates double, and it will cost me $1,500 for 1 week to have my dogs in kennels. So that you're only half price when I think about it, because I'm saving on the dog kennel fees.
Right. Nice.
So that's a nice little marketing idea as well. So yeah, so there's some of the things that are emerging, and I'm constantly looking at other ways that we can just form that bond with our guests. In a lot of cases, they do it themselves. I don't know about you, Steve, but when I come to look at my holiday rental, I'll do some of the basics, things like things need to be unloaded or checked. And when I've done all of that, the first thing that I do, without fail, is I look through the guest book and see what's there. And in many ways, that's why I do what I do, because there's such an outpouring of happiness from people. Some people who have been quite ill, who have had some sadness in their life,
Hmm.
and they say, we've come through hard times, and we're just so grateful to have had this wonderful, wonderful experience. And that led me to realise that in some ways we're not in the accommodation business, we're in the happiness business. And
Yeah, you know what? I totally agree, and that's one of the things that kind of made me realize after doing this kind of part-time for a number of years before I decided to, do this as a full career, was that we're almost like an ice cream store, right? Everybody is happy. So,
yep.
and that's one of the great things about it. I mean, what other industry do we, gets to produce so much happiness?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I've got a couple of lawyer friends, and one of whom is in a divorce lawyer business, which is doing quite well. And she says, you're quite lucky doing what you're doing, although she's got a holiday rental business herself that she runs part-time. But she says, my clients hate each other. They lie to each other. They don't like me. They treat me as an unnecessary enemy. They lie to me. They never want to see me again.
Yeah.
It's a whole negative experience where I'm just blessed to be in a business where day after day I talk to people and they just smiling and happy, and they're gazing into each other's eyes and just walking on air, and it's a great thing to do. It's a great industry to be in.
Absolutely, I love it. Well, let's kind of wrap it up here with I do have a couple of things I wanted to mention though. Sort of a challenge for anyone watching. Both of us, me and Rex, have published similar blog articles, which I will put in the show notes, about responding faster and how to do that. We have a slight difference, though. I came up with a solution that was free, yet not that fast. And Rex has a solution that is very fast, but there's a small charge to it. So we were wondering if there's anyone out there that has another solution that is both fast and free. So please, respond in the comments of the blog, and we'll see if we can incorporate that into what we do and what we teach. Anything you'd like to add to that, Rex?
No, but it would be wonderful if one of our listeners and viewers did have that. It would be really, really helpful. So that's really all from me, Steve. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of it. I'm really, really stoked to be part of this today and also the World Summit. As I said, I think that we're in the middle of a revolution in vacation rentals, and there's no excuse for someone to be running a holiday rental and to say, I don't know how to do it better, because there is so much information that's both around on your site and my site, but is about to explode on the market with the new World Summit. It's just an amazing time, and I'm so excited to be part of it. It's great.
Fantastic. I'm glad you feel the same way. So I'll post links to that as well here, and so everyone can find out more about what we talked about a little bit. But anyway, thanks again so much, Rex. It's been super fun getting to know you and find out about your success and what you've been doing. So I look forward to interacting with you once the World Summit comes around in July as well.
Fabulous. Thanks very much, Steve.